We are on the home stretch here. It's time for the closing keynote. So I was pretty sad to miss this one last year. My wife selfishly went into labor the day of Rachel's summit last year. I know, timing. But I've heard a lot of really good things, and I'm really excited about this one. So Eric is a veteran of the Marines, Paralympic athlete, Ironman, and his story is pretty powerful and harrowing. So I'm not going to try and tell anything here. I'm just going to pass it over and let him do his thing. So please give a big round of applause. Take it away.
Good afternoon. Hey, awesome to be here with you. It's been a great day. It's really hard to see you right now with these lights. I didn't realize that. The speakers, you all did a good job. Hey, welcome to the living room. Hand check over there. I don't know, I can't see what's going on. But I'm excited. So I spoke in Toronto. I know some of you saw my presentation, so you're going to hear a similar story, but I'm going to add to it. And I'm just excited to be here today. I am. It's been a big year for me. I got glasses this year. Thank you. I'm not wearing them, so if I walk off the stage, then you know what happened. But no, I was having a little bit of issue seeing, and I went into the doctor, the eye doctor, and told her, I've been working on a computer a lot. I think it's blue screen or whatever that is. And she said, no, you're just getting old. And then she saw my face. I was like, great, thanks. And then she changed it. She said, okay, you're getting more experienced. And I was like, all right, I can handle that. I can handle being more experienced. I could rally behind that, and that's true. I've had a lot of experiences in my life, and I'm going to share some of them with you. Everyone here, you have your own experiences. I have your own story. We all have our own unique stories, right? We do. And as I talk about myself and share some of my story and my life with you, I don't want you to focus on me. I want you to focus on you and where you are. I'm going to talk about embracing the different challenges in our lives, in our professional lives, in our personal lives. I'm going to talk about resilience, share some principles with you. So I'm excited to do that. We're going to start here in a race. And this race was in Leeds, England. Now, if you've never been to England, Leeds, it's a lot like Austin, but not at all. So to think totally opposite. And this race, it was a sprint triathlon. It was a qualifying race for the Paralympic Games, going into the Paralympic Games in Tokyo. I'm missing my right leg below the knee, so that's how I qualify for that. All right, and just in case you're curious. So I've been racing triathlon. This particular race is a sprint triathlon, which is a short one. It's an hour long. I don't know if that doesn't sound short to you. It's shorter than a lot of them. Your heart rate gets up to about 3 million beats per minute immediately and stays there for that hour, give or take a couple beats. And for this race, qualifying, there were 17 of us in my category. My category is below knee and above elbow impairment, and we race together. So there are 17 of us. I was ranked 16th in the world. I had to get third place in this race in order to keep my hopes and dreams of qualifying for Tokyo alive. So I travel over there, I get ready, go down to the swim start. I'm ready to start this thing where chaos ensues. First off, do we have any triathletes out there? Who's done a triathlon before? All right, they're good stuff. There we go. How many swimmers do we have out there? Okay, 7. 7 people can swim. I was expecting more. That's all right. The horn goes off and chaos ensues. 17 of us just bust out together, going as hard as we can. There's white water everywhere. There's contact. The first minute of these races are miserable because you're going as hard as you can, and then you kind of settle in. You settle in and you're jockeying for position, and in the swim you're allowed to draft off people. Drafting means you get right behind them, or right up on their side, and it's actually easier for you. You're like in their current. So when you're not a great swimmer like me, if you swim like a rhinoceros, that's your strategy. Try to get behind someone a little bit faster than you and stay on those feet as long as you can. So we settle in, and I notice that I'm on someone's feet, and I recognize that it's the Spaniard, Alejandro. And I know it's him because there's 2 feet. Usually we only have 1 foot, and there's 2 feet, and I knew that he had 2 feet, and he's missing an arm. So I get right on those feet, and then for the next 10 minutes of this swim, which is the last 10 minutes, I'm thinking to myself, I'm losing in the swim to a guy with one arm. How is this happening? I need to start working on my swim when I get home, but whatever. I stick with him. We get out of the water. I am in right around 8th place-ish, 9th place, so it's not horrible. But we get out, we go get on our bikes, we take off. I actually have a pretty good bike ride. I passed a couple people up, and we get off our bike. I'm probably in 5th or 6th position. I don't know exactly. That's kind of where I'm putting myself. A couple of us get off together. We go to transition. In transition, I have to change legs. I go from a cycling leg to one of those running blades. I don't know if you've ever seen them, but they're pretty cool. So I take this leg off, put that leg on, I look up, and I start running out of transition. The run is a 5K. It's basically 3 1-mile loops, and that's it. That's not that long of a run, but as I'm running out, I see Alejandro all the way up there, and I'm thinking, oh man, I'm like 5th or 6th right now. Alejandro is up there. I've raced him before. I've never beat him in the run. So immediately I'm thinking, this stinks. I'm going to lose this race. But hey, I'm in the middle of a race. Like, there's no reason to quit at that point. Anything could happen on race day. So I just start going. I start running, and within the first mile, so within that first loop, I see him. Because this is a course where there's terrain in between and trees, so you can't see everyone on the course. And I see him, and I'm catching him. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, wow, this is crazy. I'm going to catch Alejandro. This is pretty cool. And I have a strategy when I pass someone. It's probably everybody's strategy. But I try to look like real fresh and run by them faster than I can maintain, but I want them to like look over and be like, oh man, he's flying. I can't keep up with him. I guess I'll stay back here. So that's my strategy. And then I also like to say something in their language, because this is an international race, so I study up on this. So I'm getting close, and I straighten up. I'm like, oh, get this, and I look good. I'm like running by him, and I say, hasta la vista. Yeah, and I keep running. Okay. I didn't really say that. I didn't say that. But that's what I was thinking in my head. And I get to the next turn, and I go to make the turn, and I look back, and he's not there anymore. I'm like, okay, this is awesome. So now I could be in 4th or 5th. I don't know. I do the next lap, and I don't really see anybody at all until the very end of the lap. There's the next athlete. It's a guy I recognize. He's from Luxembourg. And I don't know what they speak in Luxembourg, so I didn't even think and try. I don't know. But I see him, and then as we're getting close to basically the finish line, but we have to do one more loop, I see someone lean out. As an older guy, it's like that's his coach. Lean out and say, hey. He holds up 3 fingers. At least I think. I had that eye thing going on, so I'm not sure. But I swear he says third. He says third. And so in my head, I'm like, okay, he's in 3rd place. I'm catching him. If I pass him, there we go. I'm going to qualify for the Paralympics, something that I've been working for months. And I'm like, I'm going to do this again. So with probably a half mile left, I see it. And I'm getting closer, I'm gonna make the pass. So I make myself look real fresh, and I just go flying by him, and I'm putting a lot into it. Like, I really don't want him to try to stay up with me. And after this, I pass him up. My next opportunity to see him is, there's what's left in the race is a U-turn. And a U-turn is kind of cool, because when you make that turn, then you can see how far back that next person is, which is very helpful. But there's a U-turn, a hill, up a hill, another U-turn back down the hill, and then a sprint to the finish. And there's a hard left at that bottom, and then a sprint to the finish. So I know all this because I already did 2 of these laps, right? And I'm about to make that U-turn, hoping he's at least 10 seconds behind me. I make the U-turn, and he is right on my shoulder. He's right on my shoulder. He did not bite for my strategy. He probably has the same strategy. And he's breathing down my neck. I'm thinking that he had garlic toast or something last night. And I'm like, okay, here's the hill. I'm going to use this hill. My wife does a good job of reminding me that I have kind of a big butt, and it's like an engine. So this is how I'm going to use this hill. I'm going to power up this thing. I only have a couple chances left here. So I power up this hill. I get to the top. I get to the top of the hill. I make the U-turn, hoping there's a gap. I hope there's a gap. There's not. There is no gap. In fact, he passes me up on the inside. All we have now is downhill, a hard left, maybe 200 yards total, 200 meters total. I don't know where you're from, whatever, right? And he passes me up, and then he turns into like a jackrabbit because he's taking off. And there's like a meter between us. There's like 2 meters between us. There's 3 meters between us. And I realize I am watching my goal, my dream run away from me. I was now in my head, I was defeated. I was defeated. And I thought to myself, like, all of that time and effort, sweat, blood, tears, sacrifice, training was a waste. I'm going to get 4th place. And that's what I was thinking. Have you ever been there? Have you ever been there? Maybe not in a triathlon race, but have you ever set a goal, started heading towards it, and all of a sudden it's like, oh wow. Not only I'm uncomfortable, like my lungs are burning, my legs are jello, but now I recognize this isn't going to happen, right? Or this might not happen. My accomplishment, my dream that I'm working towards, it's going to be hard to attain. I wanted to walk off that course or significantly slow down and like just get 4th place easily. And that's where I was. I had a challenger that day. I was up against adversity. And that's where everyone comes into my story, right? Everyone here has challengers. Everyone faces challenge. Everyone faces adversity. And this is where we're going to stop thinking about triathlon and how my legs felt like jello and how my lungs were burning, and think about the challenge that you face in your professional life. What challenges are going on? What challenges are going on in your personal life? Like, those challenges are unique to you. And I don't use these words in a bad way, because when we face challenge, there's an opportunity to grow through it, to get better, to get stronger. It doesn't matter the challenge that you're facing or the situation that you're in, all right? I think what defines us and who we are is how we step up to the plate and how we handle it. And if we do get knocked down, because that happens, is how we get back up and keep pushing forward. And when we're up, we pull others up with us, and it's character. And what defines you? What defines you? So here are some things that are important to me: integrity. Do the people around me trust me? Do the work ethic? Am I that person that's going to pour everything into something that I try, an assignment, training, a mission, a race? Or am I going to do just enough to get by? Do I have compassion and care about the people around me? Or am I always thinking, all right, what's in it for me? Because that's when we don't grow. And then, do I have grit? Do I have resilience? When I do get uncomfortable, when things do get hard, when it feels like the hits won't stop coming, am I ready to quit? Am I ready to walk off that race course? Am I ready to quit on that dream? Or am I ready to dig in and push through, right? Because in everything that we do, in work, in play, in hobbies, at home, there are talented people, and there are people that don't give up. And this is the person I want on my team. Because that talented person is great when things are going smoothly, but when things get hard and they walk away, it does us no good. This person that doesn't give up, that's the person you want to surround yourself around, because that person is going to be successful. And I've just been fortunate that I've had people throughout my life who have helped teach me how to navigate through challenge and have taught me really principles of resilience. I shared some in Toronto. I'm going to share some different ones with you here. But before I do that, and before I get back to that race, quick background to who I am. This is not a Halloween picture. This is mid-'80s, what we look like. This is my family. Grateful, because what my parents valued mattered. They valued hard work, love, support, character. They valued family. They valued building a foundation in us. My dad was a sports kind of guy, loved all kind of sports, and because he did, we did. This is me going out for football, American football, in the 6th grade. And this is supposed to be an intimidating picture, and I realize now it's not at all. I don't know why we took it in front of pink flowers, but I learned at a young age that I wanted to serve in our military, just from the people around us, some of the stuff I heard, and just what people I looked up to. And out of all the branches of service, the Army, Navy, Marines, Coast Guard, Air Force, by far, the Marine Corps had the best commercials on television. So I chose, I wanted to be a Marine when I grow up. And I grew up and ended up going to the United States Naval Academy. Now, Naval Academy, it's a lot like West Point, but way better. I played rugby there. I studied mechanical engineering, ended up being the best decision of my life. It one of the best decisions, not because I'm an engineer. I'm not an engineer. That's where I met my wife, who was studying engineering. She's the one on the left. And a lot happened, really. I fell in love immediately. I don't know. I guess I believe in love at first sight. I knew it, and every day I've fallen more and more in love with her. It took her It took her a couple more observations, a little bit of bribing for that first date, but eventually she gave me a chance, and yeah, it worked out. We graduated. She became an officer in the Navy. I became an officer in the Marine Corps. We had our first daughter, moved out to the San Diego area, started doing deployments. We did 5 overseas deployments, and our last deployment was mine, a trip to Helmand Province, Afghanistan, where I worked directly with the Afghan army. It was definitely an experience. This is just kind of the area that we were in. I thought Afghanistan was beautiful, at least where I was. And this is my corpsman. He's our medic outside of a school that didn't exist a year prior. So, I felt like, at that time, I was serving a purpose larger than myself. And so on December 9th, 2011, my life changed. The day started early, woke up, did some final preparation to go on a patrol, and this patrol was dismounted, meaning we were walking around a village. With our job, it was a new area, to get the people in that village to trust us and the Afghan soldiers more than they trusted the Taliban. It ended up being about a 6-hour patrol, and still, every time I tell that story, the patrol keeps getting longer and longer. I think it was 5 hours last year, I don't know. No, I'm just kidding, I wouldn't do that. But we're finishing up our 7-hour patrol and heading back to our patrol base. And as we're going back to the patrol base, that's when it happened. I stepped on an IED, an improvised explosive device. I triggered the explosion underneath my right foot, and I actually remember the experience vividly. It was just a violent force, picked my body up, threw me to the ground. Immediately, my ears were ringing. I didn't even hear the explosion. I heard a pop, like you're opening a can of Coca-Cola or something, then my ears are ringing. Life was in slow motion. For me, I explain it as like the sensation of being underwater. Didn't feel anything yet and didn't know exactly what was going on. I was conscious, but I was dazed. I had a concussion from the blast. And slowly things are coming back to me. I realize I'm in Afghanistan. I'm laying on my back. I was looking into the sky just a second earlier. It's a beautiful blue sky. Now it's full of smoke and dust. And that's when it hit me. I just stepped on an IED. And I knew it. I knew it because that was the weapon that we saw over and over again. And now I just triggered this explosion. And I'm bleeding. I could feel the wetness on my leg. I didn't feel pain. And for a moment, I thought that was it. And 2 thoughts went through my head. First, I thought I was going to go to heaven. And it wasn't necessarily like a scary thought. I don't know if this is something I prepared myself for, but I'm a Christian. And I believe heaven is an amazing place. I'm kind of just curious and thinking about that. And then I pictured my wife and my daughter's face. And I got scared. I got extremely scared. There were things on this earth that I wanted to do. And at this point, I wanted more than anything in the world. I wanted them to be there and to hold them. Now, I was scared. And as I'm thinking about them, my corpsman, Mike, he comes running up to me and starts saving my life, because that's what we do. As they were getting me out of there, calling in the helicopter, unfortunately another Marine triggered an IED and hurt himself. The helicopter came in. Now this was all pretty chaotic. This is under Taliban fire. It came in, landed. Myself and the other Marine were tossed on and it took off. 7-minute flight to the surgical facility. But I'll tell you, I was in the midst of heroes that day. I don't know if you've ever been in the midst of heroes, but it's something special. And it was the men and the women that got me out of there in that time frame and saved my life. When we landed, that helicopter landed, it was 40 minutes before I went into surgery. It was 40 minutes from the blast to going into surgery, which is a really, really fast time. I woke up after surgery, and I was missing my right leg below the knee. Bandages all up and down my left leg, my arm, IVs in me. Bad shape. I'm in bad shape, but I'm alive. I'm alive. And this is what kind of starts the next journey. That was the bad stuff. The next stuff is the good stuff. From there, I had people in my life. Who helped me see this not as a tragedy, but as an opportunity. And from there, we moved forward. I started racing triathlon. I wanted to finish an Ironman triathlon. An Ironman is a long day. I think everyone can really relate to that. Everyone has had a long day, but this day, it's a 2.4-mile swim, 112-mile bike ride, and 26.2-mile run. It's just like an all-day race. I don't know why people do it, but I did. That's what I wanted to do. And we worked hard. We worked hard to get there. I think I got some pictures of this hard work. We broke it down into bite-sized pieces. I'll have to go back to that. But, I started racing triathlon. Next thing I know, get some teammates, and we do it. We end up crossing the finish line of that Ironman, 11 hours, 54 minutes. It was Ironman Hawaii, the Ironman World Championships, which was awesome. It was definitely a special time. And it's pretty cool. I think it's important to celebrate your goals. I continued racing Ironmans, and that led me to further things. Now, in Toronto, I shared a couple principles of resilience that I learned on that trip. I think the most important one that I talked about is gratitude. That's principle number one, and then everything else is just there. I talked about gratitude. I talked about perspective. Putting things in perspective. I talked about having the discipline to be consistent, day in and day out. And I talked about it in a training sense. You got to do the training day in and day out, but whatever goal you have, you got to do the work day in and day out, especially on the days you don't want to. And then the last one I talked about was excuses. Like, do you have excuses? What's your go-to excuse? Because our go-to excuses hold us back from actually reaching our potential. Now, I want to share a couple additional principles that I've learned on the journey that I've been on. But first, I'm going to talk about gratitude again. All right, I'm going to share that story because I think it's important. So if we go back to December 9th, 2011, this is in San Diego where my wife and my daughter were. My wife got the phone call. And my wife missed the phone call because she misses every phone call, right? I could call her right now. I guarantee she won't answer. But she listened to the voicemail, called him back, headquarters Marine Corps. They told her what had happened. They told her what to expect. The next morning, my daughter, Lupe, who was 5 years old at that time, was going off to kindergarten. My wife told her. She said, Lupe, Daddy got hurt at work. Daddy lost one of his legs. Daddy's coming home. We need to be there to support him. And coming home was being at a hospital, a naval hospital near the house. And Lupe, she asked the question, well, when is Daddy coming home? And my wife said he's going to be home in about 6 days. Lupe took 10 seconds to process all of this information. Then she smiled. And she said, Daddy's going to be home for Christmas. And I thought that was so cool, right? Such a negative event in my eyes, in my wife's eyes, in my parents' eyes, my friends' eyes, my little 5-year-old daughter just so purely pulled something positive from that situation. And I think that's special. I don't know what's better, having a leg or being home for Christmas, right? But that whole having a leg thing, that was gone. Instead of her focusing on that like we did, she decided to focus on this. And I remember, I lit up. I was in Germany on my way back. I was in a hospital there when my wife told me that was her response, and I was like, yeah, gotta go home, spend Christmas with the family. I called the nurses in. I thought that was pretty cool. And it's a kid's way of thinking. Who thinks like that anymore, right? But when do we lose it? When do we lose that kid's way of thinking? And if you think about it, it's kind of simple. That was just Lupe being grateful for what she had. She still had her father. I think I had that picture of her. There she is. That's her in the hospital bed with me. She was grateful that she still had her father. When I realized that, and I realized I can do that as well. I can be grateful. I'm grateful that I'm alive. I'm grateful that I still get to be her father. I'm grateful that I still have my left leg. I didn't used to like my left leg until I lost my right one. Now I love this thing. I'm grateful for the technology and prosthetics. There's some good stuff out there. You should check it out. Right? No, don't check it out. I'm grateful that I get to race. Grateful for the journey I'm on. There's a lot to be grateful for, and I think that's the first thing. I think that's the first principle. When something isn't going your way, what is? What do you have in your life that you're grateful for? Because when we have gratitude, we impact people in a positive way, and I think that's important. Hey, and there's good things about being an amputee. I save money on socks, which is a win. You got to take the wins when you can get them. I don't really ever change my right one, right? Buy one, get one free. That's what that's called. I fly a lot. There's not a lot of leg room. So I take my leg off. And then there's there's so much room for activities. This is awesome. First, every seat on the plane is first class for me, which is kind of a special thing. All right, so that's the first principle I want to talk about. The second one I want to talk about, do you have a goal and are you pursuing that thing with passion? So after I did finish that Ironman, I continued to race Ironmans. I was kind of doing it, trying to beat my last time. I did 8 of these stupid things, right? I don't know, I'm not smart. But I did 8 Ironmans, and then I was at an event with a buddy. He's a below-knee amputee like me, and he kind of looked me in the face. We were at eating after the event, and his name's Jamie Brown. He was actually on track to qualify for Team USA to go to Tokyo and compete in the Paralympics. And he said, hey, Eric, here's what you should do. You should take what you're doing in the endurance world and put it on hold and come over and race these sprint triathlons and see if you can also qualify for Tokyo, for the Paralympics. And I was like, I know that sounds simple. It's like it's a triathlon, a long triathlon, or it's a short triathlon, but it's really different. This long triathlon, the training is very different. It's a lot slower. I think it's less painful, and you do like 1 or 2 events a year. This para-triathlon, trying to qualify for the Paralympics, was going to be traveling around the country, or traveling around the world, doing international races. For me, that meant I had to fund that. How was I going to pay for all that? I have 3 kids. None of them get to go to college now because I decided to do that. I'm just kidding. That's not true. But there was a lot at stake. Like I didn't want to do it, and I didn't make a decision right then and there. I wanted to sit with it for a little bit. I went home. And I was thinking about it, and there was at one point I was sitting with family, and they were asking me all these questions about, hey, what does the Paralympics look like? Well, how are you going to qualify for this? And I really talked it down. Like I was kind of nervous of jumping in because I didn't want to go put everything on hold, make this an investment, spend all this money, and then not qualify. So I told him, like, hey guys, I don't know. The chance of me actually qualifying is very low. And then my daughter, she stole a line from Dumb and Dumber. Has anyone ever watched Dumb and Dumber? Where there's a point in there where Jim Carrey, he's talking to Mary Swanson, and he says, hey, what's the chances of a guy like you and a girl like me ending up together? That in itself is funny to me. And she says, not good. And he says, not good like 1 in 10 or like 1 in 100? And she says, more like 1 in a million. And he looks at her, and then he's like smiles, and he says, so you're telling me there's a chance? So we're sitting around the table, and I was saying, hey, I pretty much have no chance. It's going to be, the chance is very low. The chance is very low, and everyone's kind of quiet. They see how I'm getting all pumped up about this. And Lupe, she looks up, and she says, so you're telling me there's a chance? And I laughed. I'm like, I love it. And I realized, here's the thing. I was going to have to pour a lot into this, but I was going to regret if I didn't try. Because then I wouldn't have known. Like years from now, I wouldn't have known if I could have qualified or not because I didn't even try. And I'm like, you know what? It's worth it. It's worth taking the risk. And right then and there, it turned into my goal, and I started to get deliberate. This is what I need to do, and it inspired me. That next morning, I was up and training because now I have a goal. Do you have a goal right now that actually inspires you? Right? Something that when you wake up in the morning, you think about it. And hey, there's days where you just want to tackle that thing. And then there's days that are a little bit overwhelming. But still, thinking about that goal and that dream inspires you. It could be a professional goal, could be a personal goal. I say make one of each. Because when you do it, it's motivation to wake up in the morning. So now I have that goal, which I think is the second principle. Do you have a goal that inspires you? Next principle I want to talk about is, do you have the team and resources? So at that point, I set that goal immediately. I called Jamie, my buddy, and I said, you know what, dude? I'm going for it. I'm going all in. And he's like, that's awesome. That's what I wanted to hear. And I said, what do I need to do? And he said, I'm going to put you in contact with some coaches. I'm going to put you in contact here. And you just got to go out and build that team. So before I can really start training, I have to be deliberate. I have to be very deliberate about building this team, getting the right coaches, getting the right teammates, coming up with the right plan so I could get fast in this short distance stuff. And it was fun. It was awesome. So now I have this team of people. Do you have a team? Do you have a good team? A team that you trust? A team that cares about you and your goal? Do you have a mentor? Do you have a mentor? Are you mentoring someone else? Do you have a network? How do you go about building that network? Because it doesn't happen. It doesn't just happen. You have to be deliberate about it. But once you get that team, you have the support. And I went through droughts in my life where I was stubborn and prideful. And I wanted to prove that I could do things to myself. And that's when I inched along. When I started accepting support, building this team, that's when things started moving in a good direction. So I think that's the third principle I want to talk about is you have the team and resources. And now the last one that I want to talk about is how do you view failure? How do you view failure? How do you handle failure? Because failure, when you say it, sounds pretty negative, right? Well, it's not. It's not. It's your response to failure that could either be positive or negative. I have failed 1,000,000 times. Probably 70 times today, I think. I don't know. But I've learned to view failure in a way that works. So as I started racing, I did a couple of smaller races, and then I got into my first big international World Series race. It was in Australia, and I was going to go out and I was going to win this thing, or at least get set first, second, or third. I wanted to get on the podium because that was going to kind of put me on track to qualify for the Paralympics because I was late getting into this thing. And so I fly all the way out to Australia. It's a long couple flights from Pittsburgh, but I get there. The language barrier was a little rough. I don't speak Australian, so there was no interpreters, but I figured it out. I got to the race. There were 12 of us in our category racing. There were 12 of us. I worked hard. I did as best as I could that day. I got second to last. I got 11th place. I was distraught. It was a long trip to go to get 11th out of 12. That was a failure. It was funny. My sister, after they were watching it and stuff, and then she sent out a group text. I don't know if she meant to add me to it, but it said, "Thank God for Finland," because that was the only athlete that I beat. I was like, yeah, I guess that's a good way to look at it. Yeah, I didn't get last, right? But I got 11th. That was such a long flight home. It was such a long flight back to the States. And when I got on that plane, I was done. I was like, you know what? I'm done. I can't spend any more money to travel around. I am not elite enough to compete at this level. This didn't go well. Now the people that supported me aren't going to support me. I was very negative talking. I was viewing this failure in a pretty bad way. But by the time I landed, I had a whole notebook of notes. I was like, what went wrong? What went right? How can I change this? Who do I need to talk to work out my prosthetics, my bike position? What workouts am I not doing that these guys are? I was eager. So I ended up using this failure as my response was good. I learned from what went wrong in order to get better. From there, the pandemic started, and so I had time to work on it. My next race was in Leeds, England. And at this point, I have to go out to this race. I have to get third, right? I have to get third. And, we're at the end of the race now. We're at the end of the race. I poured a lot of time into this. Maybe not as much as some people, but a lot of effort, a lot of time. Worked hard to get there. And I'm currently in fourth place. Third place is like three or 4 meters ahead of me and moving fast, right? And I was uncomfortable. My heartbeat my heart was pumping out of my chest. My lungs hurt. I don't think I could even breathe at this time. The legs felt like jello. I don't know if you've ever been there. But in my head, I was like, you know what? This isn't it. I said to myself, Eric, you can do anything for 1 minute. And I don't know exactly how long it was going to take, but that's what I said in my head. You could do anything for 1 minute. And I've always used that. I remember when my wife and I used to deploy, we'd look at each other. My wife was leaving for 8 months, and I was going to raise my daughter and get ready for my next deployment. We'd look at each other and hey, you could do anything for 8 months, right? A little bit longer than 1 minute. But I'll tell you what, our mind gets in the way. We can do more than our mind thinks it can. And I was like, okay, Eric, you could do anything for 1 minute. And at that point, it was like, click. I stopped thinking those negative thoughts. I got back into a mental state where I'm going to finish this race. And so now I'm not thinking about quitting or walking off or getting fourth. I'm thinking about what do I need to do to catch him. I need to start engaging my big muscles. I need to get my breathing down. Got to work on my arm swing. Got to get a higher cadence. And I started doing all this, and I start just sprinting down this hill. And I'm running down the hill hard. I'm running down the hard. At the bottom of the hill is a hard left turn, and I know it because now I'm thinking about the race. I'm not off in la la land. Now I'm being deliberate, and I know that this is coming up, and we haven't hit it this hard yet. So we get down to that hill, and he takes it real wide. It's like it surprised him or something, and I take it real tight. And now we are shoulder to shoulder with maybe a little over a football field left. And I just like, this is it. This is my chance, and I just go. It hurt so bad. It hurt so bad. I think I might have held my breath for that whole sprint. I was trying to breathe, but I was seeing double, I was seeing triple, but I was also seeing that finish line getting closer and closer and closer, and he's somewhere behind me. I don't know if he's going to come up on my left or my right, but it's getting closer, and then we get to the finish line, and I cross it. Now, he's within a second behind me. He comes across it as well. I beat him. I got third place. I fell down immediately, gasping for breath. He does the same thing. We're laying next to each other. I'm thinking someone's going to come out and pick me up and be like, yeah, the champion. Someone came out, and they checked my vitals and put me in a wheelchair. I was like, well, a little anticlimactic, but whatever, dude. I got third place. That night. It was the best feeling ever. It was the best feeling ever. I looked at myself in the mirror, and I was proud of myself, right? It's like, hey, you didn't quit when you really, really wanted to. And I'll tell you what, if he would have ended up beating me, if I would have put everything into it, I could have looked at that mirror and said the same thing. Like, hey, you gave it your all, right? That's what we're going for. At the end of the day, did you give it your all in whatever it is that you're doing? Whether you're in a race, whether you're at work, in your career, at home, in your relationships. Because again, things don't happen by accident. We got to be deliberate. And I had a high school student once. I get to travel around and give speeches. There was a high school basketball player. He asked me, if you can go back to the day that you were injured, what would you change? And I said, I wouldn't step right there, right? And then I was like, yeah, no. I had to think about it. And, I wouldn't want to go through that pain again. Physical pain, emotional pain, not just for me, for my family, friends. It was a hard time. It was a hard couple months. I wouldn't want to go through that pain, but I wouldn't change it. I learned a lot about myself, learned what my priorities are, moved forward in a good direction, realized that, life is a team effort. I recognize my priorities are, when I got blown up in Afghanistan, there was that moment I thought I might be dying. There were two thoughts that went through my head, right? I thought, I get to go to heaven, and then I thought of my wife and my daughter. And I realized those must be the two most important things in my life. So for me, my faith and my family. And when those are in line, everything else seems to fall in place. So I challenge you, what are your priorities? And they don't have to be the same as mine, but what are your priorities, and are you living according to them? Because when you put things in priority, and you live by those priorities, things seem to really, really fall into place. So after that race in Leeds, I got to go out, represent Team USA in Tokyo. It came full circle for me. I'm wearing, it was pantyhose around my neck, because the weather in Tokyo feels like Austin, where you do nothing but sweat, right? And there's ice in there. I don't know. They were handing them out, so I took it. But before the race, I was sitting there getting ready to race, and I looked down, and I saw this USA on my chest. And I was just proud. I had the privilege of serving our country in uniform. Then I got to represent it in an athletic uniform. So it was pretty cool feeling. I came across that finish line in first place. No, I got sixth place, actually. Yeah, I should have been like, I got sixth place. But no, that was me. As I'm crossing that finish line, I kind of gave glory to God, because he's been part of my life in a good way. And I'm glad someone got that picture. But after the race, my wife, it's funny, I got home and she said, hey, you didn't win that thing, but it's okay, right? It's okay, because I looked it up. In 2024, which is now, the Olympics and Paralympics are in Paris, France, and I really want to go there. So tomorrow morning, you got a big bike workout, and then we're going to do some swimming. But I loved it, because I had already thought that as well, because I think it's important. When you hit an accomplishment, hit that goal, celebrate it. Celebrate it like we're going to celebrate tonight, right? Yeah, celebrate that thing. But then what's next? How can you continue to grow? I'm still a student, still trying to grow. So right now we're trying to qualify for Paris. It didn't get any easier from Tokyo. I'm again kind of on the outside looking in, and I have 3 races left, racing in 2 weeks in Japan, and it's awesome. I love it, but it's part of the journey. Chances are real low of me making it, but you're telling me there's a chance. We're gonna keep working. So, what are your priorities? What can you implement into your life so that next year at this time you have grown, right? Now, what habits are missing in your world that you need in order to become a better version of you, because you deserve that and the people around you deserve it, all right? When you look at yourself in the mirror at night, who do you see? Who do you want to see? And be that person. I'm going to leave you with this. This is what I'm grateful for, because I want you to think of what you're grateful for. This is my family now. My wife is on the right. Lupe's on the left. My son, Will, he's awesome. He's quiet, shy little kid when he's sleeping. And he's like a savage when he wakes up. And we got Elise. And then my dog's 12 years old, but she's probably 10. This is an older picture. This is what I'm grateful for. What is it that you're grateful for? Oh, wow, that's impressive. I didn't know that was coming. But hey, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to celebrating with everybody. Thank you. Thank you.